Hello friends, today we will learn how the early man came into existence. When did man come on the earth? Where did he live? And what did he do? These are some questions to be answered. There is no written record of the events of that period. Our knowledge of that period is mainly based on the evidence collected by the archaeologists. The early man appeared on earth a long time ago. He was called a hominid, and their earliest remains have been found in Africa. The hominids appeared about 40,000 years ago and did not know how to make houses or to grow crops. They were afraid of natural things such as thunder and lightning and lived in groups. The sources of our knowledge about early man are discovery of stone tools, remains of shelters, cave paintings. The early man lived in caves to protect himself from heat, cold, rain and wild animals. He had to move in groups from one place to another in search of food. He was called a hunter or food gatherer. Working in groups made his work easier and faster, as well as provided safety too. The early man ate the flesh of the animals they hunted or the fruits they gathered. Do you know, man is an ape in origin. The early humans had no knowledge of metals. His tools were simple and were made of stones, wood and bones. These tools were mainly used for hunting animals, fishing, digging and sewing. The period is therefore called the Stone Age. Cave paintings have been found in some parts of the world. These paintings are very old and were made by early humans. They are mainly about animals and hunting scenes. They are helpful to us as we come to know about the life of the early humans through them. Amazing fact. There was basically little difference between early men and animals in their food habits. The early humans did not wear clothes. They did not know how to make clothes, so they used leaves and animal skins to cover their bodies. It protected them from the cold and heat. The early man did not know how to read and write. He used gestures or hand movements to communicate with one another. Later, he began imitating the sounds made by animals to call each other. What were the early humans afraid of? The early humans did not have the knowledge of thunder, clouds, lightning in the sky and rain. So they were scared of all these. The change in their life was a slow process. It took thousands of years for them to learn about fire, wheel, agriculture and housing.
Discovery of fire. The early humans perhaps saw a forest fire. When they went near it, they felt the heat and were afraid of it. They learned that the animals were also scared of the fire. The early men thus used the fire to keep themselves warm as well as keep the dangerous animals away from them. The discovery of fire must have also been accidental. The early human must have struck two stones that gave a spark. The spark must have fallen on dried grass and caught fire. How did they learn to cook food? it also happened accidentally. Perhaps a piece of raw flesh fell in the fire accidentally, and when the man ate it, he found it soft and tasty. Thus, early man began to cook food making use of the fire. Since then, the early man started lighting fire by rubbing two stones.
Beginning of farming and settled life. The early man might have noticed plants growing in the neighborhood. He might have seen the seeds that fell on the ground sprouting and growing into a plant. He started sowing seeds to grow plants. This was the beginning of farming. Thus, the man became a food producer from a food gatherer. This was the beginning of his settled life. The early man began to live at one place. Now, he did not feel the need to go in search of food. He grew his own crops, stored the surplus grains, made baskets and pots to store grains. This was the beginning of a community life, and slowly villages came into existence. The early man began to domesticate animals. Perhaps dog was the first animal to be domesticated. Sheep, goats, and cows were the other animals domesticated by early man. These animals provided them with meat, milk, and wool.
Invention of wheel. The early human did not live at one place and had to walk long distances. He used animals to carry things from one place to another. Someone must have noticed logs of wood floating on water. So, the early human got the idea of making rafts. This helped him carry loads with him. On land, he used sledges. These sledges could move only on smooth or level ground. The early human might have observed that logs could be rolled easily if they were cut into smaller pieces. This might have led to the discovery of wheel. These wheels were put under the sledges. Thus, carts came into existence. Now, it made land travel easier and faster than before. This invention of wheel also led to the invention of the potter's wheel used for making earthen pots.
Discovery of metals. The first metal to be discovered was copper. The discovery of bronze, a mixture of copper and tin, changed the way humans lived, as this metal was stronger than copper. Then came the Iron Age. People across Europe, Asia, and parts of Africa began to make tools and weapons from iron and later from steel.
Let us summarize. Early man appeared on the earth about 40,000 years ago. Stone tools, cave paintings, etc. are the sources of our knowledge about early men. Early men moved from place to place in search of food. They mainly used stone tools. Therefore, this period is called the Stone Age. The early man lived in caves. They did not wear clothes. They covered their bodies with animal skins or leaves. They were afraid of lightning, thunder, clouds, and rain. The early man perhaps saw forest fires. The discovery of fire was accidental. Striking of stones might have produced fire. Invention of wheel made travel on land easier and faster than before. Invention of wheel helped in rapid progress. It brought a revolutionary change in transportation and pottery. Men learned to domesticate animals for food and wool. Slowly, men learned farming and started living a settled life. Farming led to permanent settlements.